The interesting thing about finding a passion is that it's not something you usually search for or even realize you've come across. And most of the time you don't really know where it came from. For me, this was nature. A love rooted in simply being outside that grew into the general curiosity, interest, and ultimately study of the environment.
I presume I've loved it my entire life. I grew up in a house with a thin wooded area in the backyard where we played in the leaves every fall. This was in a small town called Windsor in northern Connecticut. 11 years ago, we moved to a suburb of Pittsburgh. Looking back on it now, the irony of discovering my enthusiasm for the environment in the former Steel City, what used to be one of the country's largest polluters, is quite amusing. But it was there that I began truly exploring the woods. I was lucky enough to have moved into a neighborhood surrounded by them. The time I began exploring the woods is probably about the same time my interest in photography and painting started to grow, and somehow I was able to combine these three interests. I defined myself as a realistic painter, taking photographs and painting them, attempting to have the final paintings look like the pictures I have taken, and 99% of the time those are of nature. Moonlit skies, reflections, wildlife. Being lucky enough to travel across the country and internationally also added to my love of nature, and my interest in global climate change began to grow as I noticed and learned more of how it is and will be changing, well, the world. Beginning with simply noting the damage people did in my backyard just to clear a dirt bike path, to taking notice of entire landscape variations when in airplanes or atop mountains, the transformation has become clear. There are cities where wood and mountains used to be, cutting through valleys and everywhere in between. With this brings pollution of all types, air, light, and so on. It wasn't until the middle of my sophomore year in college that I had gained enough knowledge of the topic to decide I wanted to declare environmental studies as my major. Even then, I had no idea where I wanted to go with it or knew enough to form justifiable opinions to argue or share with anyone. What I knew and believed in were the basic facts. Climate change is real, the environment needs to be protected, emissions are bad. In one aspect, nature is beautiful and I would never want that to change. It's easy to get carried away, especially for passionate people like myself, and think you know most of what there is to know. I had tried coming up with solutions, thinking it's such an easy problem to fix. All you have to do is plant trees, conserve what you can, start using renewable energy sources, and convince everyone to do the same. This is blatantly untrue. Through many of the courses I have taken thus far, we have done mock UNFCCC or other meetings of that sort to experience and understand what truly occurs at such vital international conferences. The bottom line is that there's no easy solution. Everyone has such varying desires that they want or need to be met. Each country is so different, whether it's their level of development, politics, amount and type of resources, or population. This in addition to the fact that people don't want to spend money and are simply afraid of change is severely obstructive to the addition of renewable energies and other forms of sustainability around the world. What could you or I possibly do if big revolutions haven't already occurred when we know so much? About the time I began realizing all of this, with all of the knowledge I didn't have before, is when I started thinking about what could be done to truly make a difference. Not only that, but what I could do personally in my future to do so. When you were a kid, I'm sure you all remember grown-ups would ask, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" To which some kids would answer, "A doctor," or "A firefighter." My answer was always a veterinarian. Who doesn't love animals? But there was always that imaginative kid who would say, "A superhero." Well, ask me today what I want to be when I grow up, and I'll tell you a superhero. I want to save the world. Cliché? Sure. Arrogant? Maybe a little. The truth? Absolutely. I've always been passionate about volunteering, community service, and just helping people in general. I'm overwhelmingly proud to say I've almost completed a total of 800 hours of service, and I honestly couldn't imagine what my life would be like without having done those activities. From that, I recognized and formed the idea that I can combine these interests just like I did with my art, and decided I wanted to focus my studies on sustainable development. Let me explain. Many developing nations that are extremely impoverished due to lack of water access, education, medical treatment, electricity. Those are the places where I can make a difference, helping people individually, as a nation, and ensuring that their continuing development will not lead to the same predicaments the United States, China, wherever else face today. Climate change mitigation is not a goal, desire, or possible just for educated college students to achieve. Not just for politicians who we always hear are the only ones who can do something about it. No, it's for everyone. Your family, community, state, nation, and world. Any age, religion, ethnicity, all walks of life. In my opinion, sustainable development and renewable energies are the bottom line solution to this crisis our world is facing. I plan to go into this field and travel to the nations where I can further progress the most, or simply get started with the implementation of methods of sustainable development. I'm excited for the countless opportunities I have in my future. Just for this upcoming summer, I'm fully applied to summer-long internships in Ecuador through World Internships, Alaska through the Alaska Conservation Foundation, and am in the process of applying to multiple internships through the Foundation for Sustainable Development in Uganda, Kenya, and Bolivia.
How many generations in all of human history have had the opportunity to rise to a challenge that is worthy of our best efforts, that has a challenge that can pull from us more than we knew we could do? I think we ought to approach this challenge with a sense of profound joy and gratitude that we are the generation about which 1,000 years from now, philharmonic orchestras and poets and singers will celebrate by saying they were the ones that found it within themselves to solve this crisis and lay the basis for a bright and optimistic human future. Let's do that.